Well, good evening everyone, and welcome to tonight's Agenda Forum on Wednesday the 5th of February 2025. I declare this meeting open at 6 p.m. and welcome to everyone in the gallery, and thank you for the time that you've taken to come in tonight and those watching at home. I'd just like to begin with our acknowledgement of country. The City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and their descendant. Just like to let you know that the City's election caretaker provision policy requires that candidates of relevant elections to identify themselves as an election candidate prior to asking a question or making a statement at a council meeting. Councillor Henderson has declared previously that he is a Liberal candidate for the district of Swan Hills, and Councillor Dawn has declared she is a candidate for the Animal Justice Party. So this statement is taken to apply to the entirety of the meeting, and Councillor Henderson and Councillor Dawn are not required to identify their candidacy each time they address the meeting. And so I'll ask Councillor Howlett, do you wish to declare your candidacy for the upcoming state election?
Yes, that is correct. I'm running as an independent for the seat of Midland.
Thank you. So then you will also not have to, is that correct, Mr. CEO? Have to declare that each time that you speak. So I'll ask, is there any other person in the gallery tonight that needs to declare that they're a candidate for the upcoming state election? We don't have any? No? Thank you. So the terms and conditions of entry into this meeting are posted at the entry to the public gallery. Members of the public are advised to read them prior to attending this meeting and abide by them. So attendance and apologies. Tonight we have the Deputy Mayor, Ian Johnson, Midland Guildford Ward, and we have Councillor Catalano is absent, Councillor Dawn for Altone Ward, Councillor Sarah Howlett for the Midland Guildford Ward, Councillor Aringo is absent, Councillor McCulloch is here from the Pearce Ward, Councillor Rod Henderson for Swan Valley Gidgegannup Ward, Councillor... Oh, we're going back because we crossed it. Councillor Zanino from Swan Valley Gidgegannup Ward, and Councillor Knight from Whiteman Ward, and Councillor Brodovnik from the Midland Guildford Ward. I think, was it Councillor Jones is also with us tonight? I'm pretty sure. So we also have some leave of absence. We have Councillor Aaron Bowman from the Pearce Ward, who is absent with a leave of absence, and Councillor Jagdeep Singh from the Altone Ward. Have apologies from Councillor Miles from the Whiteman Ward tonight, and that should be everyone. So we move to part 4, which is declarations of impartiality and financial and proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality. Mr. Stephen Kane declared an impartiality interest in item 14.3.3, which is responsible authority report, the proposed lifestyle village Park Home Park, part lot 900 Chittering Road, lot 9501, Fairchild Street, and lot 9013, Tigermouth Boulevard, Bullsbrook, which is the DA 6922024, as his son is an employee of Planning Solutions. We move to part 5, which is petitions, and tonight we have a petition which is to be presented by Mr. Joel Hugo, containing 182 signatures to deny the proposed place of worship, planning application DA 4382024, lot number 9, number 5, Bennett Street, Caversham. Thank you, Joel.
Good evening, my name is Joel Hugo, and thank you for the opportunity to present this petition. It is absolutely unacceptable how the City of Swan is able to consider the development of this proportion so close to a state-protected bush area of the Bennett Brook. The application will destroy the natural feeling of entering Caversham, the Swan Valley's main artery roundabout via Benar Road to West Swan Road and Lord Street. The main topic in question is the traffic management going into the Caversham estate and in the future. The consensus of the community is that the outer area of Caversham is expanding so rapidly, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, mind me, that the current infrastructure cannot cope with the added venue at the proposed location of lot number 9, number 5, Bennett Street, Caversham. On the main thoroughfare, including Bernard, Davitt and Lord Street from any direction, is already impeded with the other place of worship, a mere 70 metres on the other side of the road. This application, a business enterprise and existing dwelling should remain as the intended purpose of private house dwelling as zoned. The traffic assessment compiled does not reflect traffic today as it was compiled in the height of COVID 2020. The Bennett Brook and associated tributaries are at severe risk with all this impending development and is losing the connections with the natural waterways and the land. The vital significance it plays to the Swan River and further to the southern area of the brook and its surrounding ecosystems. In that exact location of the proposed development is adjacent to a known hotspot for endangered species, like the southwestern snake-necked tortoise, quenda and southern brown bandicoot, freshwater mussels and fish species, and all other fauna that live on that part of the Bennett Brook. It is an extremely important part of the Bennett Brook and its future health. Whilst the brook and its condition is hugely important, animals living there require dark, secluded, natural light and flowing water, not construction waste and light pollution that this development will impede on the already environmentally secluded and sensitive area of the brook. I also mentioned our neighbours of many years and the families that also live directly alongside the proposed site will be noise impacted with the construction and the traffic delays. The car park noise and the proposed visitors not to mention. The increased traffic and the time travel delays on the roundabout entry and exit of Caversham. Cheap fuel days also bring all local traffic to a standstill. This poses risk to all that live in Caversham, making it impossible for any kind of first responders to enter Caversham swiftly. Previously, this roundabout was at a standstill for nearly 3 years whilst under construction.
Did you have much more there to go?
Just one more little thing. I believe there's much better suited land options for this development alongside existing places of worship along Marshall Road and further away from the densely populated housing area of Caversham. I'd like to thank you for listening and taking all considerations of this petition and the 200 voices of the Caversham community. The impact of a development of this nature will cause the already difficult roundabout for the entry and exit of Caversham now and in the future. I urge all councillors to reconsider this proposal and prioritise their decision over this development for a better outcome for the Caversham community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hugo. Would you like to read out the actual petition, please? Oh, okay. Do we have a copy of that already presented? Okay. Does he need to read it and copy it? Or you're happy with that? No problem. Thank you very much for that.
Can I ask the petitioner a question, please?
Is that permitted?
It's your meeting, if you wish to.
If it's related.
Thank you. Thanks for the petition and presentation. Can you tell me, have you noticed or are you aware, have rangers issued any parking tickets for the parking that's in some cases not legal?
I'm not aware of anything that has taken place, but I'm sure that there probably would be from the amount of cars that frequently enter that area. They do overspill from the already existing place of worship on Bernard Road into the main thoroughfare through Caversham.
No worries. Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Thank you very much for that. And Mr. van der Linde, if you could please just confirm when this petition will become to council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now that the petition has been received by council, our intent will be to deal with the petition as a submission on the application. And it is anticipated that the application will come to council at the April meeting at this stage. At that stage, the petitioners will also have the opportunity to make a deputation to council again.
Madam Mayor, I move that the petition be received and that a report be made to the council. That will be dealt with next week at the council meeting.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks very much. So we move to part 6, which is reports and notices of motion. We have 6.1, additional information, 14.1.3, the repeal of compliance policy and adoption of governance framework. Some minor word changes have been made to the officer's recommendations, and these changes have been made in the agenda, which has been published on the city's website, which was the recommendation was 1, repeal policy POLC 162 compliance, 2, adopt the governance framework, 3, approve the publication of the governance framework on the city's website, and 4, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to make any formatting and nomenclature or other minor changes to the governance framework during its period of currency. That brings us to 15.2, Councillor Prodovnik, amendment to administrative process for the collection of shopping trolley fees. The amendment provided by Councillor Prodovnik is to add a new point 2, which is 2, for this to apply only to small retailers as defined by Consumer Protection as owned by up to 6 people, operating no more than 4 retail stores, and having up to 25 people working at the same time across all stores, excluding apprentices. And another reason, overwhelmingly the largest number of trolleys collected are from the big retailers Woolworths, Kmart, Coles and Big W, according to our data. Then we move to 6.2, which is deputations. And in accordance with current procedures for public participation at agenda forums, all requests for in-person deputations were required by 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 4th of February 2025, and all written deputations received by 3 p.m. on Tuesday the 4th of February 2025, and they were circulated with a preliminary agenda on Tuesday evening. So we move to 14.3.2, Amendment number 1 to the Bullsbrook Townsite District Structure Plan 21, 21 properties in the proposed Bullsbrook North Urban Expansion Area, which is DSP 171A on page 145. We have an in-person deputation in support of the officer's recommendation, and the first is Mr. Whalen from Whalen Consulting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson, and hello to Deputy Mayor Johnson, councillors and council staff. Thank you for this opportunity to present this evening. My name is Mitch Whalen, and with me is Stuart Griffiths from Watson Property Group, and we are the joint proponents for this proposal. We're also part of the Bullsbrook North Landowners Group, which comprises 18 land parcels, 21 members and 97% of the 344 hectares that is encompassed in this proposal. I just thought it would be useful to give maybe some councillors who are not aware a bit of background on this proposal. The existing Bullsbrook District Structure Plan was approved by the WA Planning Commission in 2018 and classified the majority of this northern part of the Bullsbrook District Structure Plan as future investigation area or future residential, meaning that a lot of the planning was deferred to a later date. There was a proposal to rezone some of the area that was classified as future residential to urban deferred some years ago, and that was supported by Council and the Planning Commission, but ultimately not supported by the Minister, Rita Saffioti, at the time. The Minister cited the need for some further planning in the Bullsbrook area, resolution of a wastewater treatment buffer, and more information on Chittering Road traffic issues. It's also, I think, fair to say that there was a bit of an issue with some of the landowners who weren't happy with the proposal for a school site. And in that note, I'd just like to point out that since that time, the school site has been relocated in this current proposal, and the owner that was quite opposed is now supportive of this amended plan. Following feedback from the Minister, we reflected deeply on this plan and the project, and now 6 years later, we're pleased to come back with an amended, much more comprehensive proposal. That's been the result of over 50 meetings with various stakeholders, public and private, and individuals, and including at least 2 presentations to the Bullsbrook Ratepayers Association. It's important to note that this proposal does not seek to expand the area of the District Structure Plan area, rather it's filling in the gaps for the unplanned area. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the City's officers and Pearce Ward councillors for their preparedness to engage with us and provide feedback, which has certainly been much appreciated and taken on board. In conclusion, Mayor Richardson, Deputy Mayor Johnson and councillors, on behalf of the proponents and the Bullsbrook North Ratepayers Landowners Association, we commend this plan. It's the result of a lot of consultation, a lot of refinement, lots of work, and we believe that it's going to lay the foundation for a great future for Bullsbrook for decades to come, and we commend the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whalen. I'll just get you to wait just a moment and I'll ask if there are any questions now from councillors. No one has a question? It looks like you got out of it tonight. Thank you. And I'll also ask our next speaker, Mr. Vera from the Row Group Design, to come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Richardson, Deputy Mayor Johnson, elected members, council staff. I thank the council for this opportunity to speak to item 14.3 of the agenda. My name is Philippe Vieira. I'm a principal planner with Row Group Planning Consultants. We are assisting the proponents to progress this amendment through the local and state planning framework. I'd like to begin by expressing support for the officer's recommendation and report. We commend the report as a balanced, well-reasoned and articulated assessment of what are a complex range of issues, and we certainly appreciate the city's positive engagement and guidance to the project team over the last 5 years or so in reaching this milestone. The amendment is consistent with the Planning Commission's designation of the Bullsbrook North area for urban expansion in the sub-regional planning framework. Importantly, it provides a framework and guide for further planning to come as part of subsequent MRS and local scheme amendments, as well as local structure planning. These planning processes and the more detailed technical investigations required to support them will occur over the next few years. In broad terms, the amendment is expected to lay the foundations for the provision of approximately 4,000 new dwellings, accommodating some 12,000 people. This will ultimately make a valuable contribution to the housing supply constraints. A local centre, 2 new primary schools, the identification of approximately 24 hectares of land within the amendment area for conservation and public open space purposes. Over the life of the project, this is expected to increase to approximately 40 hectares. Landowner-funded road upgrades through a future development contribution plan to be negotiated with the city. And critically, the amendment includes a realignment of the proposed east-west road connection extending from Chittering Road in the east to Great Northern Highway in the west. This connection is intended to divert heavy vehicle traffic and other traffic away from the Bullsbrook town centre. The realignment represents a material change to the amendment and has been done in response to community and stakeholder concerns. We'd like to reiterate our support for the officer's recommendation, and we thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Councillors, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Vieira? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. 4,000 dwellings. Did you say 5,000 people?
No, approximately 12,000
I
people.
thought you said 5.
Approximately 4,000 dwellings at 12,000.
Where did I get the 5,000 from? 12,000. Thank you.
That's right.
That works out.
Anyone else have a question? No? Thank you very much for coming tonight for your deputation. So then we move to 14.3.4, which is the proposed telecommunications infrastructure, lot 7 to 9, number 41 James Street, Guildford, DA 458-24, page 243, and in-person deputations in support of the officer's recommendation, Mr. Caddy. And you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors. Thanks for letting me speak today. My name is Daniel Caddy, and I'm here today as a concerned homeowner, representing myself and the other owners and residents of my house, Ben Caddy, Stella Caddy, and Lana Pope. We strongly oppose the telecommunication facility proposal at 41 James Street. This site is directly next to our home at 15 Atfield Street, and we believe this development would have a significant negative impact on our community. Firstly, this proposal conflicts with the City of Swan's zoning regulations. The land is zoned as private clubs and institutions, which under Article 4.2.17 of the local planning scheme states that land use should be compatible with surrounding land use and should not impact upon the amenity of surrounding residents. The surrounding properties are almost entirely residential, and a 25-metre telecommunications tower is not compatible with this setting. This is not a minor development. It is a major piece of infrastructure that would permanently alter the character of the area. Secondly, the local planning policy for telecommunications facilities, Article 6.2.1, states that towers must be set back a minimum of 200 metres away from any residential property. Yet this proposal places the tower just 34 metres from my front door, which is nearly 6 times closer than the policy allows. The purpose of a 200 metre setback is clear. It's to protect residents from visual intrusion. Thirdly, the proposal contradicts key heritage protections under the Guildford Heritage Area Local Planning Policy. Article 10, Views and Vistas, states that new structures must not be visually dominant or protrude above the tree canopy. This tower at 25 metres will stand well above any surrounding buildings or trees, creating a stark industrial presence in an area known for its historic charm. Our property has one outdoor entertaining area, an area that will quite literally sit under the shadow of this proposed tower. On the other side of our property is a main road, meaning our only outdoor space for relaxation will be severely impacted by an intrusive industrial structure looming over us. This development will strip away any remaining sense of serenity, replacing it with an imposing and unsightly tower. The level of community opposition to this proposal is undeniable. 48 formal submissions have been lodged by local residents, all opposed to the development. This is a clear indication that this tower is not wanted, nor is it appropriate for Guildford. These objections represent real concerns from long-standing members of the community who are committed to preserving the unique heritage and character of the area. Approving this tower would set a precedent that threatens the very essence of Guildford and disregards the careful planning that has gone into preserving its unique identity. I urge the Council to listen to its residents, uphold its own policies, protect our community and reject this proposal. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr Caddy, for coming into that deputation. I'll ask councillors, are there any questions for Mr Caddy? Thank you very much for that. And we move to 15.1, which is Councillor McCulloch, Life VAC devices for city facilities on page 515. In-person deputations in support of the notice of motion, Mr Borger.
Sorry guys, I'm running late coming from the city of Joondalup. My name is Brian Borger. I want to say gratitude for you guys to come and hear me this night. I'm coming to request you guys to think about a motion of passing a device that I think might help save lives in around Western Australia. Last year I lost my 22-year-old son. Right here, his name is Zaire. He passed away from a choking incident. I'm a single dad of 2 kids. His brother is 4 years old, and Zaza was meant to be 2 years old. He passed away 1 month before his birthday. I did everything as a dad could do. I did CPR, I did mouth-to-mouth, and unfortunately he passed on my arms, and my son, my 4-year-old, was next to me. I attempted suicide 5 times. I stopped even counting because I couldn't fathom living in this world without him. After he passed away, I didn't know what to do. I was just in a dark place. I was told to wait for 7 months to get therapy. And I got a phone call on his 4th month when he passed away that 2 other kids passed away in Australia. So I decided to turn my pain into a purpose. I took the rope that I wanted to hang myself with, and I decided I was going to make a ladder to come out of it. So I decided I need to do something with this. My sisters, they work in ICU in the US, and then they told me about a device called LifeVac. So this device over here, it's like a plunger which just helps with pulling out any obstacle on your throat. It doesn't replace any first aid equipment or any first aid procedures. before my son passed away, 2 months prior, I already did that first aid course, so I thought I was equipped to do it. Unfortunately, within 4 minutes, my son passed away. It took 25 minutes for the ambulance to show up, and by that time, he was already dead. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much, Brian, for, the courage to come in and share your very, very extreme circumstances of the passing of your son. Would you like to talk for just a quick minute about the device and what you would like to see happen
Yes,
within
please.
the council areas?
Yeah,
just
the
so we
time
can
just
round
went
off.
so quickly. I was just
That's okay.
trying. Yeah. So basically, the device. What I would want to do is for you guys to have a think. Just think about it. As a community, I think our responsibility as a community is to heal people. And my journey through this has been a healing process. The city of Joondalup has been the first city in the world to pass this device. It costs less than between $150 to $200. They're gonna install it in 38 facility run administration. It's gonna cost less than $5,000. It cost me $15,000 to bury my son. When my son passed away, I only had $250 in my pocket. I had to go to the community, Minister of Community, on my knees to beg to help me bury my son. As a father, I felt I disappointed him. I would hope that if you guys pass it, nobody wants to be the first, but City of Joondalup was first. I would just request to be considered. I'm not forcing anybody to vote for anything they don't think about. It's been approved by TGIA in Australia. It's a government body. So I think Joondalup did a good job. I have a lot of people live in the city of Swan. They have kids, so I'm just advocating for them. And it's for adults and kids. Almost 2,000 kids passed away, including no kids. 2,000 people passed away last year in Australia through choking. If this resolution is passed, I want to roll it over in Australia so I can finish my healing journey. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for elaborating to help us to understand what it is with this motion you're hoping to achieve is that I think it was to look at the cost of putting and implementing that life-saving device into our facilities. So thank you for sharing that with councillors tonight.
Appreciate it.
Councillors, does anyone have a question for Mr. Woger? Councillor Ringo.
Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I think we can all agree we're quite heartbroken for you in here. Are you able to just show all the councillors in here actually what the device looks like and perhaps actually demonstrate, sorry, I'm coming from a medical perspective here, so are you able to sort of demonstrate for us how, because you said it's like a plunger, right? I think we're all thinking of toilet plungers, so could you please demonstrate for us what it looks like?
Definitely. Do you guys mind if I stand here so everybody can see it?
Yep.
Yeah. So it looks like this. So if you've ever done unlock your toilet or your sink, this is the main device.
We might get you to, I might get you to pop up to the corner here. It's a bit harder. But just the people in the audience are also watching as well, so they can't see from behind. So maybe sort of there or at the top corner, wherever's easier for you. If you come and stand here at the top, then kind of everyone might be able to see. Right, just push that chair out of the way there. There we go. You can turn the microphone on at the button there. All right.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay. So it's like a plunger. This is the first main attachment. And in between, I call this a platinum because we have two different sets, and I'm not getting any scent from it. So just to be clear. you have different mouthpieces for kids and older people. So I'll just use one for an adult. So you just push it in, it clicks like this, it locks in. And so once everything you've tried, CPR, mouth to mouth, and somebody's calling an ambulance, this is the last resort you need to use. So basically you just, if you're able to place somebody on the floor, or actually even if somebody's sitting, you can be able to do it. So once I'll just put it on the table. So basically if there's somebody's mouth, you push it down and you push it and you just pull it. And then it creates a suction. So the suction creates a vacuum and then it just pulls it. So that's the thing. And like I said, you have different mouthpieces, and the manufacturer, it's made in New South Wales, but partner, it was originally made in America, but this is an Australian made. And I've already gotten a pledge from Simon, who's the co-founder. So anytime that anywhere, let's say in case it's put here and it's been used, it's going to replace it for free. So if this one is used, we just make an email or we call him and he's going to replace the device for free. So once you buy it once, it lasts for 5 years. And it has saved almost 3,500 people around the world.
Thank you very, very much for displaying that so that councillors had a chance, and I'm not sure if you want to hand it around so they can have a quick look. You know, there's always nothing better than having a practical experience of touching something and knowing what it is. There are 3 different masks in there. I think there was a children's, should be a children's small and an extra large mask in there. You can have a quick look. It's always, like I said, important to get your hands onto these things so you understand what it is, how it's used, and very, very important piece of equipment, particularly from a nursing background here. And the fact that we do, I suppose, have lots of children we do have a lot of children at our venues and our functions. So, yeah. So I'll just ask the next deputy to come up if they're ready. And it's Ms. Hope, and if you'd like to also give your 3-minute deputation, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me speak at your meeting. My name's Jacqueline Hope. I've been supporting Brian since he came to City of Joondalup and gave this very sad story of Zaza, who choked on grapes. As he explained to you, he'd already done a first aid course, and what you know that when you do the thrusting, which is what's advertised to do, that has a 70% success rate. This has a 100% success rate. I was a midwife for 38 years in 4 countries in the world, so I'm very aware of policies and procedures and protocols. But the CPR devices, the defibrillation boxes that are now in all of the shopping centres and whatever, asking the general public to take that off the wall and administer to somebody who's had a heart attack is really, really scary. We used to have to do it every year, and even though it was a plastic doll, it set your heart rate going. This is a secondary device. When this child or adult collapses because they're choking, somebody runs and gets the box while you do the thrusting. It's not instead of. Brian gets no reward for this other than trying to save children's lives. So City of Joondalup have approved, and the City of Wanneroo have approved and are looking into this. Zaza's law, we're hoping to get that passed, that wherever, anywhere food is being served, that it's mandatory that you will have this device. Obviously, children are the priority in terms of they will put anything in their mouths, but this was grapes, and there were 4 of them stuck here. So there was nothing that could have been done. It was a really tragic event, and what we're asking you here is please, this is such a minimal amount of money when you look at the grand scheme of things that all councils have to do. If it saves 1 life, it's worth it. It is very affordable and very available in other countries, and I do think it's something that we'll wonder why we never used it before. You can buy these in little bags that can hang on mum's pram. So I do think that it's a matter of getting this information out there and for people like yourselves in positions of authority to support us in this campaign. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much for your deputation, Jacqueline, and supporting Brian in his endeavour to get these out there. Did everyone have a look? And I'm sure, are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Ringo? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your deputations. I noticed you said that obviously within your local government it's already been implemented. Can you talk us through, I guess, whereabouts are these devices put? Is it where there's, where there is defibrillators around the city, or just on its own?
Yes.
Yeah.
What we're hoping is that wherever a council has put a defibrillation box, that this life app would be next to it. And I presume it would have to have the same thing. You can't just take the box off the wall and use it because it can be vandalised. I think you have to phone a number, get a code, whatever. So that's why, in the same way as you would do CPR, while you're administering this, somebody gets the defib, same thing. You would do your high neck manoeuvre, you would do your thrusting while somebody is getting this box. And so if it's hung in the same place, people will be seeing it and be looking at it. Eventually, if Zaza's law is passed, then I think there will be public announcements on the television like there are for other laws that make sense, do you know? So it makes sense to me. This is such a cheap way of saving lives. In fact, Simon was a paramedic for 15 years who actually left to promote this because he was fed up of getting there too late.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any further questions for Jacqueline? Right. Thank you very much for your deputation. And we move to 15.2, which is Councillor Brodovnik, amendment to administrative process for the collection of shopping trolley fees on page 516. And we have in-person deputations in support of the notice of motion from Mr. Pham from the Pham Group.
Right.
Thank you.
Good evening, councillors, Mayor Richardson and the members of the City of Swan. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Matthew Pham, the Group Operations and Marketing Manager for the Pham Group of Supermarkets. Our family business of 35 years owns and operates multiple IGA supermarkets, including Midland IGA. Firstly, I want to reiterate that I completely agree that abandoned trolleys are a problem. They are indeed an eyesore and a community hazard. I support any initiative that creates better outcomes for both businesses and the community. However, the current local law is unfairly penalising small businesses like mine, and I strongly urge the council to reconsider its approach. At the end of last year, I wrote a letter to a few councillors and to the City of Swan to voice my concerns and issues with the local law. The current approach treats small retailers like myself as the root cause of the issue rather than as part of the solution. We are not being given the opportunity to retrieve trolleys before fines are imposed. In the past 3 months, I have received multiple fines, and yet not a single report has been received through the Snap Send Solve system, the very mechanism meant to notify us. This is an undeniable flaw in the process. I understand that the city needs to recover costs for collection, but lumping small independent businesses like mine in the same category as major corporate chains is unfair. Unlike large retailers, we don't have deep pockets or corporate support to absorb these costs. The city's own report states that providing an exemption for small retail shops could be a solution. I strongly encourage council to pursue this. Otherwise, this law will put an unsustainable financial strain on local businesses. We already face high operating costs, rising supplier prices, and increasing security concerns from theft and antisocial behaviour in the area. Now, on top of that, we are being hit with ongoing fines that will send us broke. Instead of immediately penalising businesses, I urge council to implement a 2-week notification period where retailers are given the chance to collect trolleys before fines are issued. This would make the process fairer and actually encourage proactive solutions. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing: fewer abandoned trolleys in the community. but the current approach is punitive, ineffective, and unsustainable for small businesses. I ask Council to reconsider this law and implement a more collaborative solution that supports small businesses while still addressing the issue at hand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your deputation. Just come back up to the microphone because you might have some questions from councillors, you may not. Councillors, questions. Councillor Dawn.
Thanks very much for your deputation then. How much are your fines? I haven't heard of anybody being fined. I just thought that was...
So the fines, as it stands, is $37 plus GST for every trolley that the City of Swan picks up and then issues to me. So I've received 2 fines. I think the first one totaling close to $400, and the one last week, a little bit over $200. So I'm close to $800 in the red here. And it's, been a very short period of time that I haven't had an opportunity to collect the trolleys. So if you, extrapolate this to over a year or whatever, it's myself and Ben from Stratton IGA, who can't be here, has the same issues and concerns that I have.
Does the city give you, how much time do you get to collect the trolleys? Are you notified?
So that's where the problem is. So the trolleys that are getting picked up, there's no communication process in between the trolleys getting picked up and us getting the fine. So the app is not solving the problem. Like, we're not being notified of the problem. If there was every week we do have someone picking up the trolleys at the very least. And when it comes to with the trolleys, what do I want to say? So with that, we need notification. So give us a bit of notice. I've no problems myself. I go in my SUV car to pick up trolleys, multiple times a week. So that's where the breakdown in the system is, that we aren't being communicated and given an opportunity to pick up the trolleys and rectify the issue.
Deputy Mayor, you had a question?
Yeah, I've got some questions. How much does a shopping trolley cost?
I haven't bought one in a while, thank goodness, but it's expensive. It's at least $250. So they're not cheap, but they're a necessary evil, so to speak, in supermarkets because people can't shop without them. So yeah.
And how much would it cost to retrieve a trolley yourself? Per trolley?
It's hard to put a number onto that, but we're happy to do it in-house. So between myself, we've got someone, we have a 6-pallet truck that gets sent out at least once a week to pick up. So it's hard to put a number on it, but we don't mind doing, solving it internally. So as long as we get prior warning and communication.
Councillor Knight next, and then... I'm seeing it.
Here we go. Thank you, Matthew. Just quickly, how many how many supermarkets do you have in your group? And are they all in the City of Swan?
No. So we've got 4 supermarkets in my group. And yeah, the nearest one is Whitnam Road in High Wycombe, but we only have one in the City of Swan.
And how do they deal with it in Kalamunda?
They're a bit more hands-off, but I guess this is more of an issue in the City of Swan. I see more trolleys out and about, and I guess the reason is you have more big retailers. So you have multiple Coles and Woolworths, you have Big W, you have all these big chains. So I think that the problem is more prevalent here. I have heard the City of Belmont have a working solution where they let the IJ retailer know, give them a bit of notice, and then they pick it up in a short period of time to rectify the issue.
Okay. And is there anything that you're doing in the IGA to minimise the trolleys being taken out?
We try to do the best we can but when it leaves the car, it becomes a bit of an issue. But like I said, we don't mind picking them up. We have a PA announcement probably every 15 minutes. We have signs everywhere to say, hey, don't make sure the trolleys don't leave the premises and let us know. And you can actually see on my TikTok page, I have video footage of me picking up trolleys here and also my Barford store primarily as well.
Okay, and just finally, the Snap Send Solve, does that notification come to you or does that come to the city? Maybe that's
I think the problem what we're having is, so we've set up the account and we've verified with Snap Send Solve that we set up correctly. I think that one of the problems what we're getting is it's sending to IGA, but IGAs are owned by multiple retailers and stuff. So I don't know where it's being sent to. So from my end, I'm receiving none. I don't know how much we're receiving in totality, but it's not set up, and they're not really wanting to talk to us because we're not the quote unquote owner of IGA or up that food chain, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I had Councillor Dawn, and then I'll move back to the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Matthew. Has it been helpful that the city is actually collecting them and rounding them all up for you? Has it been helpful when you have picked them up? Is it helpful that they're all in one place? Otherwise, you get a fine.
Well, not at this point in stage because it's currently stuck in the yard there. So I'm not prohibited. I'm not allowed to go pick them up as we speak. So not really, I would say.
Why aren't you allowed to pick them up?
No, because it's been impounded, so therefore I have to pay the fine to pick up the trolleys that are mine. So no, it hasn't fixed anything.
How else would you find them if you've got 20 trolleys that have been impounded? How else would you have found them otherwise?
So we normally get we know the hotspots. So we have spoken to someone from the City of Swan, the operations centre up there. And they have let us know a few hotspots, and we know a few hotspots of our own that generally most of the trolleys are there. And also customers every now and then also let us know, both in person or on social media and on Facebook as well.
Deputy Mayor, you had a question.
Yeah, so to help us understand the impact of this, what is the total annual revenue of FAM Group?
Total revenue?
Yep, total sales per year.
Of this IJ?
No, of FAM Group.
Well, I'm happy to say it's in excess of 40 million in revenue, but you also got to take into account that we work on very razor-thin margins.
Oh, thanks.
So.
Okay, thank you. Now, Councillor Haller had a question as well first.
Hello, thank you. I shop at IGA.
Thank you.
Lots. You have the best. You're the only people who have Golden Delicious apples, and you had Kansies for the longest period of time. So I do love them. But my question is, it seems perhaps that you didn't. I don't know. I'm assuming, but did you have an in-place trolley collection policy? Because it would seem that perhaps you were relied on people informing you where they are, and you would go out often, weekly, with the truck. It just seems perhaps it's a bit haphazard, and I'm just wondering if...
So I would respectfully disagree with that position. We are trying to be proactive as we can without given resources, so we do pick up at a bare minimum once a week with our truck as well, on top of everything else. So, like I said, I'm open to a collaborative solution that works for both of us. I'm more than happy. It's just that ever since the trial period and now, I haven't had much feedback or communication from the City of Swan and councillors or whoever, which has been difficult.
I'll just add to that you did email me and ask for a meeting, and then we reached out, but we haven't heard from you in terms of having that meeting with myself. So you're more than welcome to still have that meeting if you're open to it.
Yep.
But we did respond to you and happy to have a meeting with you. So now, Councillor Budovnik.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just a clarification, please. Councillor Johnson asked a question and the answer was 40 million. Can you just confirm that 40 million is not what you're earning?
Definitely not. I wouldn't be here.
Nah.
I'd be somewhere else. Give you the tip. So no, that is our revenue, not profit by any stretch of imagination.
1 minute. Okay, we had Deputy Mayor. He had another question? Thank you. Was there another question over this side from councillors? Councillor Knight?
Yeah, one more. I'd wager that we don't get any Aldi trolleys picked up because they have tokens. Is that something that you'd look at?
So I agree that is a solution. The problem what we get and what we found, and some IJ retailers and friends of ours have that token system, they do get a lot of complaints from customers. So there's a pro and a con to it. We have looked at a solution where it's not a coin-based solution, but it's a QR-based geosensing system. And we looked at it, and ticks a lot of the boxes, but does it fix the problem? And that's one thing. And the other thing is it's really expensive and the jury's out of its effectiveness. So we have looked at a few solutions and, thought ahead long term, because the last thing I want is every week, especially in this weather, picking up trolleys. I'd rather, stay indoors where it's nice and cool.
I have a question too. Would you just like to explain, please, if the boundary locking system is the same as the geo system?
What do you mean? Can you please clarify?
So my understanding of the boundary locking system is the magnets that are placed every 15
No, we don't. And we looked at that solution. We spoke to people that are more knowledge in this space. Mm-hmm. One, it's really expensive. Two, we lease the car park or the building from the owners, and it would require approval for that to happen. And from what I heard from Ben, his landlord have said no, and generally speaking, landlords don't want you to rip up the car park. The other problem with the locking gridlock location system, so to speak, is that it also doesn't fix the problem because it locks part of where the car park is. But let's say there's a pot plant there. People are very smart to figure out, well, the pot plant doesn't have the gridlock underneath, so people just go over that. So it doesn't necessarily fix the issue.
Were you provided at any stage with the costing for the boundary system or the geo system?
Are you talking about the same thing? Sorry,
either and or. Did Midland IGA investigate the cost, and
yes.
Do you know the cost of those systems?
The gridlock, not particularly, but I think from what I heard, it's about $50,000
for the geo system.
For the gridlock, where you cut the car park up, to clarify. Okay. And the other one for like 20 trolleys or something was like north of $10,000 for the app-based locking GPS system.
And for the coin lock, did you have a costing at all provided?
No.
Okay. And my last question is, how many trolleys do you have at the shop, at the Midland IGA?
Around, I'd say around 40 or so.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dawn?
Would a solution be just to be notified and give you one week's notice to come get your trolley, or else you're going to be fined?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, are there any other further questions for Mr. Pham? Yep. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Pham. The motion actually is for 2 weeks. Would you be comfortable with a 1 week notice period?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, councillors, any further questions? No. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I've got a question.
On the mark.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just because we're considering 1 week, I just want to ask you, 2 weeks came from the fact that it's not a 2 week period, it's actually 4 hours a week. So why would 2 weeks be better than one?
It depends on how it's being reported. I guess my answer depends on that. Every shy is different, but if we got notice to say, hey, your trolley is here, we'll pick it up. We'll drop everything to go pick it up. But yeah, we're answering your question. If it's them or someone picking up once a Friday, it will become difficult. But again, we're happy to work on a solution that works for both parties.
One more question. From what I understand, though, depending on when the trolleys are picked up once a week, so it just depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, correct. It depends on that.
And from what I understand, 2 weeks or 2 4-hour slots a week is far more convenient. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. Councillors, are there any further questions for Mr. Pham? No. Thank you very much for coming in and giving your deputation for answering those questions. And now that brings us to part 6.3, which is council members' questions in regard to items on the agenda.
Before we go, just know Councillor Ringo wishes to make a declaration of interest on it.
Yes, and Councillor Ringo, you wish to make a declaration of No? Okay. Thank you. So that brings us again, like I said, to 6.3, council members' questions in regard to items on the agenda to staff. Do any councillors have any questions? Councillor Howlett.
Thank you. This is in regards to the 15.2, the shopping trolley. I'm just wondering, I said the staff don't support it, but I'm wondering if it's going to add a lot more labour, or is it doable what's being requested in this motion?
I'll ask through through Mr. Coaten.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. It is doable. There would be more administrative work involved in it than previous, and councillors may remember that that would be similar to the previous local law where where the city had the power to identify a shopping trolley, report it to the shopping centre, and then they had 24 hours to remove it, and council decided that that wasn't an efficient way of dealing with it.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more question. So would it be fair to say then, Mr. Coaten, that we have pretty much already gone down that path?
We haven't gone down the path of giving 2 weeks. But the intention of the new local law was so that the onus would be on the shopping centres to collect the trolleys rather than the onus being on the city to identify them, report them, and then have a period where they can come and collect them. So some of the flow-on implications would be that, and depending on, obviously it's only just started, so some of the costs and things like that are just coming in and being monitored and will likely change a little bit. But, that could obviously, in turn, depending on the number that fall into that category, that could impact on the fee that is payable by the other shopping centres, because that may need to increase. And the reason being, we're trying to get it to be cost neutral. And I will emphasise that the $37 is actually a fee adopted by council. It's not actually a fine. A fine's a separate matter.
Councillor Budovnik, did you have a question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just back to Jim. The data that I've seen suggests that the small retailers are a minimal amount of trolleys being collected from them as opposed to the big retailers. So could you explain how it would be so onerous to just do this for a small group?
It would obviously depend on the amount, but it would be an extra step in the process. So staff would need to modify the process so that the larger shopping centres followed the existing process, but a sub-process would need to be put in place. So when a trolley came in, it would need to be identified if it was part of the giving the organisations the option of the 2 weeks to pick it up beforehand, or just going as per the normal process. So it's really just the difference would be administrative staff time.
One more question. Through you, Madam Mayor. From what I understand, the retailers are on this system now anyway, so there's absolutely no change to the big retailers. It's only the small retailers that have been affected. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, so I don't quite understand the question.
I'm sorry, I'll say that again. So currently the system is that retailers are just notified that they have to collect their trolleys. Mm-hmm. So these large retailers are going to be notified as they are now. They're going to continue to pay the fees that they're paying to collect their trolleys. So there's no change to the large retailers. The only change being proposed here is a relatively small group. So that administrative cost surely will be quite minuscule.
It is correct that, the secondary process would only apply to the smaller ones. I mean, I wouldn't say the cost would be minuscule. It would obviously depend on a range of factors. But yes, it would. You are correct. It would only apply to a subset. So it would be a separate process for those trolleys.
Thank you.
I had Councillor Dawn and Councillor Henderson, and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, the trolleys. I would have thought it just would have been one point of contact, exactly like to call then they call the small retailer one point of contact. Anyway, that's not my question. Can I just get 14.3.4, the James Street Telecommunications? Is the 200 metre setback being ignored? Please.
Through you, Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, the policy identifies that where you have a telecommunications facility proposed within 200 metres of residential properties, then what you're dealing with is a live issue of the visual impact. If you had a telco facility outside of 200 metres, then there is no visual impact issue. So it's merely the threshold in which you engage the assessment on visual impact grounds.
Can you explain that again to me? Because their front door is about 30 metres away, and he's objecting the fact that the 200 metres. It doesn't sound right. Why is he complaining then? If there's no issue with you,
I'll clarify that, Madam Mayor. I think my comments have been misinterpreted or misunderstood. The report makes plain that there is visual impact issues for various properties within 200 metres of this facility. The most obvious being those properties within Atfield Street, and being most obviously the properties that are right next door to the site where this telco is proposed to go. Now, what the report has said is that the visual impact is usually gauged most readily by a visual impact assessment that will take photo montages of the views from various properties and locations and then rate it in terms of its degree of impact. There is absolutely no doubt what Mr. Caddy said, that if his outdoor living area directly looks across to this telco facility that might be next door or one property removed, it's going to have a very significant impact on his outlook. So that's not being disputed or denied. What the report is saying is that there hasn't been sufficient presentation of visual impact for the most proximate properties.
Thank you. Had Councillor Henderson, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. The same matter, 1434, Madam Mayor. I accept the discussion around the visual impact and agree with that. My understanding is that 200 metres was set to satisfy electromagnetic radiation impacts, and that was principally designed around the 3G system, which was higher power and lower frequency. Do we know if that has changed now that 3G has been removed from the system and we're now operating at higher frequencies and less power? So I'm wondering, I'm separating the two issues. There's amenity as one, but the EMR is another.
Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the best of my knowledge, in 2025, none of the regulatory advisory agencies have published anything to suggest that there is a live issue of concern with EME from mobile base stations or indeed from handheld devices. And that's irrespective of 3G, 4G, 5G or anything.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you had a question?
Yeah, just to clarify something, a question for Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell, does your report not recommend refusal of the telecom tower?
To state the obvious fact, Madam Mayor, yes it does.
Thank you. Councillor Dawn?
Thank you. Are we allowed to comment or ask questions on Mr. Joel Hugo, or is that was the first? Is that coming to council?
Yeah, to ask a question then.
Ask the question then?
Then.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. I've got a question about the governance framework, which is 14.1.3. How does a governance framework fit into the Local Government Act regulations, local laws and policy that apply to this council?
So it's all through you.
You want me to? I'll start. Thank you. One of the principles of local government is good governance, and that's specified as a requirement in the Act. So bringing all elements of governance together in one overarching statement. So there's a clarity on roles, responsibilities, reporting, and many things which are cross-referenced to various sub-regulations and different legislation, put it all in one overarching document. From a public perspective, those who can't read or don't have time to digest all of that, the governance statement would be there to clarify those things. So that's the purpose of this particular document.
Is it referred to anywhere in the Local Government Act that a council needs to have a governance framework or in any regulations, local laws or other things?
So the Local Government Act empowers councils to raise policies, it empowers councils to raise strategies. The Act doesn't specify which ones you have to have. The Local Government Act empowers you to create local laws, again back through the Parliament. So the principle of good governance, going back even to our strategic community plan, the whole framework here is to put this into the public domain. And here is from a clear perspective is the governance framework for the city. Everything you need to know in one book rather than having to go to multiple sources.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not a policy, it's not a local law, it's just a document. Is that right? For reference purposes.
Yes, it doesn't replace any of those other documents, which are your statutory obligations or your rights to be able to create. But by having a governance framework, you are giving clarity to the community about how good governance is managed overarching in the City of Swan. Many people wouldn't realise that we're required to raise multiple different registers to report things like your attendance, to report contracts we enter. So specifying all this in one location and creating a single point of reference on our website. If somebody wanted to come along and see what does good governance represent to the City of Swan, that's where you'd find it. And as a final remark, if I could, Madam Mayor, many companies are going now and reporting ESG in their corporate documents, environment, social and governance. So if you looked at local government as a whole, we would be at the very best, up there with best practice by having a single statement on governance.
And I guess a follow-on question, if it's just a document to guide people, which seems to be the purpose of it, would it not be better if it included more references to the relevant sections of the Local Government Act, regulations, local laws and policy that applies? Then people could find their way through the source legislation.
Again, through the chair, there are so many hundreds of different references you can then put into this document that it would become almost meaningless from a public perspective to read it. What it's designed to do is to point you to key areas. If you look at your regulations on your financial management, you can turn to a whole section of the Act under Section 6 of the Act, but then there's a whole subsidiary set of regulations and a financial management regulation. If we decided to cross-reference every single regulation there, you would have pages and pages of documentation. So from the average public perspective, just having a simple statement about where they can find things, what good governance means, that's the purpose of this document. It also repeals one of the policies that we have. So again, council's is being asked to adopt an overarching framework that brings all of these things together, but not making it so complex that the average person doesn't want to read it.
Thank you. I've got a question now about payment in lieu of parking plan Guildford, which is 14.3.5. I guess the question is, prior to this payment in lieu of parking plan, was there actually an amount set for a payment in lieu of a parking bay in Guildford?
Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Around about the time in 2016 when the council adopted the Guildford Access and Parking Strategy, one of the key recommendations for provision of parking was to largely utilise existing road verges and reserves and or line marked bays. We adopted an amount, and it was articulated in the reports on various applications in Guildford where a shortfall of parking under the scheme provisions was in train. It wasn't implemented or written specifically in any policy document, but the amount that we utilised at the time, I can recall, was about $3,500 per bay. Now, so in answer to the question, there was an amount, but it wasn't an amount that was written formally in any particular policy document.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, are there any further questions? Councillor Knight?
Thank you. 14.1. I'm just inquiring about the mayoral car. Did I read? I can't find it in here, but there's if it's approved, it'll be a $66,000 vehicle. And after that, will it then cost, if we assume 7,500 kilometres, it'll cost 12,000 a year after that?
Through you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. The standard of vehicle that we've suggested is equivalent to that which be provided to a director. This is consistent with most other local governments. We're not suggesting that the mayor, as one of the local councils did, where mayor and CEO went, bought Mercedes and drove around them. So the standard would be a hybrid type vehicle, consistent with what we're doing with other directors, each of your professionals here. Just note that of all the 23 Band 1 councils, we are one of 4 that do not provide a vehicle to the mayor. We require the provision of a reimbursement of claim for the mayor. So this is not seeking to fundamentally increase the city's costs. The mayor or whoever was operating the vehicle, if it was the deputy mayor in the absence of the mayor, if the mayor was, say, on an extended leave, they would have to still reimburse the city for all of the private use of the vehicle. But I just draw your attention to the fact that of the other 3 members who do not provide a vehicle, none are of the size of the City of Swan. None have a mayoral regime of events, etc., that go anywhere near what the City of Swan does. There could be some additional cost to the city. It would also depend on the number of kilometres that a mayor did. If you look back at the 21-22 allowances that were paid to council members, in that year, there was a council member that was receiving, that was being reimbursed very high rates of mileage. That if that person had been the mayor, it would have been cheaper for us to have had a vehicle for them than for that person. So this is not seeking to try and give the mayor an extra entitlement. I want to draw that clear. This is simply saying it's more efficient, it's consistent with what others are doing. And to note tonight formally, just so you're aware, the Local Government Act does not require the mayor, when considering this item, to have declared a financial interest, because all allowances are dealt with collaboratively and don't require that. So I know I've gone on a bit more in terms of your question, but I hope I've tried to give some more context to it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not justified, but maybe a question for the mayor is, are you out of pocket in the current, the current allowance? Is it not?
I would answer yes. So,
okay.
Particularly because both cars that are owned in my household are business cars. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to point out those reasons, or probably not.
I'll make one further comment.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you. Just in terms of activity, if you look at the mayor's diary, and I've seen this in a lot of mayors, and so the last mayor, this one. If you're attending multiple events a day, and if you have an accident in your car, we give you mileage allowance. You may have personal insurance covered by the city, but your vehicle's not covered. So you then have to take on all that expense of repairing the vehicle, writing the vehicle off and making those claims with no capacity to claim it back against the city. So some of the advantages for someone in a role like this, which is multiple events each week, is to provide greater protection for them in the event of an incident or an accident, that they're not personally out of pocket as a result of a claim.
Okay. Just finally, if it goes ahead, would the city consider a fully electric car?
Thank you. Through the chair. That is an option for the individual, but I do note our policy is that each vehicle has to be a hybrid. So we have progressively moved with all of our directors into hybrid. I drive a fully electric vehicle. It is an option for a director to ask for a fully electric vehicle. It would also depend on the individual and their circumstances.
Had a question, Councillor Howlett?
I did, thank you. It's on the same item, just under 4.1 administrative support. A, the use of an office. B, a city employee as an administrative support. And C, the use of a computer and telephone. Isn't that what's currently already available to the mayor? And if not, could you, just tell me that?
Thank you. And yes, these issues are available to Mayor, but the reason we're specifying it is that it's not actually documented anywhere. So if we said, well, you've got no entitlement for an office, no entitlement for administrative support, no entitlement for telephonic support, by at least specifying the policy, it's very clear. Coming back to this issue around governance, the governance framework, transparency in your policies lets the community know what the Mayor is provided. It is fairly consistent with local governments to have a PA specifically to be able to manage the large volume of activities that goes to support the Mayor.
Thank you. Would there be a requirement for the Mayor's vehicle to be kept in a secure carport, or does that exist with the executive directors at present, or is street parking adequate?
Through the Chair, Mr. Coaten may not like to make a comment.
Our policy says that it needs to be kept in a secure manner. It doesn't definitely specify a garage, because that's not always practical in all cases. And some people live in smaller places. Some people live on in properties where there is only on-street parking. So it requires it to be secured, but it doesn't say that it has to be in a garage.
I think we had another question.
One final question, please. Mr. CEO, you spoke about insurance if the Mayor should be travelling in their own private vehicle and be involved in an accident. That I think I heard you say that the insurance might not cover the vehicle. Would that not be the same for any other councillor undertaking city business?
So through the Chair, your insurances cover you to and from a council meeting. That's what the insurance does. But if you start to go to a range of other activities or events and you do so in your own time, you are not necessarily covered by insurance. We provide a variety of insurances for you. But that's more about you as protection. So you'll have income protection insurance in the event you're injured. But it doesn't mean that we then come back and replace the car you're in or a dwelling if you happen to be involved in a council business and your dwelling burnt down.
Are there any other further questions? Councillor Henderson.
On the same matter, Madam Mayor, who pays Paul Keating's lovely fringe benefit tax on the vehicle in this case?
So who pays Paul Keating?
Who pays for the Paul Keating's fringe benefits tax?
I thought you asked who pays Paul Keating's fringe benefits tax. No, I didn't think he was an employee of the City of Swan, but so all taxes associated with anything which is a fringe benefit on behalf of the city that we incur on your behalf, including your meals or anything else, the City of Swan pays for that expense.
So if we could get a costing on what that value would be, I'd like to know, thanks.
Do that. Councillor Hallett, did you have another question? No. Are there any further questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm going to change the subject to 14.4.2, request Minister for Lands to acquire private right-of-way, lot 66 Junction Parade. The question really is just a general one. This is going about turning a private road into Crown land. I guess the question through Madam Mayor to the CEO or any member of staff who can answer this is, does this apply to any right-of-way? So one that the city's not involved in. Would this be the way to get all those private rights-of-way in Woodbridge, Midland and Bellevue on the books as Crown land instead of being deceased estates? Can we apply this to other rights-of-way?
So you would note for this item there's a very comprehensive process you have to go through in order to acquire a land. In this case, the land has been through a deceased estate, not used by anyone, therefore no direct ownership applies. Many rights of way, and I know that from a good friend of mine who lives in the town of Claremont, has a right of way which she part owns. So where there is a part ownership of them, though you cannot come along and just universally take them off the public's hands. In some cases, people might ask you to acquire a right of way because it means the ongoing maintenance of those rights of way then become a public liability rather than a private one. Mr. van der Linde may have some further comment he'd like to add. Mr. Coates.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, in answer to your question, in some cases this process would apply, as the CEO's pointed out, with the right-of-ways. There's a range of different land ownership structures and things like that, and things that have happened historically, but there would be some of the right-of-ways in the suburbs that you mentioned that would fall into a similar category, but there would be a number that wouldn't as well. So it really is a case of each case being considered on its own merits.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, are there any further questions for staff? No, if not, thank everyone in the gallery for coming in tonight and those at home watching, and we are back again next week for our ordinary council meeting, and I declare this meeting now closed at 7:20. Thank you.